Hi, I'm Elaine Harding. Welcome to my blog at stampwithelaine.com. I'm featuring the In the Country stamp set in the Celebration brochure. This is one of the stamp sets that you can get free with a £45 purchase during Celebration from 5th January to the 28th of February. The other stamp set I'm using is called Conversation Bubbles. You can get the stamp set on its own, but it also has a set of dies. You'll find the Conversation Bubbles bundle on page 39 of the January to April 2023 mini. The bundle comes to £45, and with that you can earn the In the Country Celebration stamp set. There are only 2 stamps in the set, and they are like ink sketches. So in fact you can just stamp the image without doing any colouring if you don't wish to, or you can colour with a variety of mediums like watercolour pencils, water painters with the ink pad, or stamping blends. It's a layered card. It's really simple. I've gone back to what we have in the annual catalogue, which is the Stamp and Cut embossing and folder called Painted 3D Texture Embossing Folder. I'm also using the whimsical dies, and I'm using the second largest one to create a frame round the cardstock. The inks I'm using are soft sea foam, crumb cake and grey granite. I'm also using the neutral Stamp and Write markers, so that's crumb cake there, and the crumb cake stamping blends, so the soft sea foam combo and just the light calypso coral. I'm also going to be using the small blending brushes. These are the new sizes. You can see the difference between the small and the ordinary blending brushes. The card base is a standard card base, basically an A4 sheet cut in half so that it measures 4 1/8 by 11 3/4, so that's in roughly 10.5 centimeters by 30 centimeters. As there are quite a few layers on here, it makes the card on the front heavy, so you really need extra layers on the inside to counterbalance it. The first layer is in soft sea foam, and both have been cut at 4 inches by 5 3/4 inches. In metric, that's 10.2 by 14.6 centimeters. So one for the front, and the one in the front will be embossed on the inside as plain. Now this whimsy stitched die doesn't actually cut right through the cardstock. It only gives a stitched edge. The very vanilla layer for the front of the card is actually cut very, very close to the stitched whimsy die. So this measures 3 5/8 by 5 3/8, so that's 9.2 centimeters by 13.7. It has to be that sort of fine tuning, so it's an exact conversion into the metric rather than rounding it off. So I'm going to bring in my platform. I need platform 1, the thin die adapter platform 2, one of the platform 3s, the cardstock followed by the die on top, and a second platform 3, and I'll run that through the machine. So I'm going to set that aside before stamping it, and for the front of the card I'm going to emboss my soft sea foam piece, and this time the sandwich is just platform 1, the cardstock in between the embossing folder. Make sure that's straight, and it doesn't matter which way up you have your folder, it will emboss just the same whether it's with a logo side up or down, and then you have a second platform, which is platform 4, the grey plate, and that's all you need. So I've glued the soft seafoam piece for the inside of the card already. Now I'll glue the embossed one on the card front. The crumb cake matte layer for the front of the card is 4 3/4 by 3 1/2, 12 centimeters by 9 centimeters. So I'm going to glue the die cut piece onto the crumb cake matte layer. And glue this piece onto the card. I'm doing things in reverse today. I'm going to ink up my stamp. I think I'll take the ink pad to the stamp because the stamp is rather large, and then just stamp in the middle. So now I'm going to add colour to this little etching here, and I'll just place my finger there so it doesn't go over, and I'm working the brush because it's smaller area, then a smaller brush is good. In the Stampin' Write marker now, you'll see there's a thick line and a thin line. So the thin line is the journaling tip and the thick line is the brush end. So I'm going to use the brush end of the Stampin' Write marker and go over the fence. Then take the darker of the Stampin' Blend markers and just go over the lines here. Then blend it with a lighter colour. The matte layer for the inside of the card is 3 3/4 by 5 1/2. So in metric that measures 9.5 by 14 centimeters. So I'm just going to glue that in. The layer for the inside of the card is 3 5/8 by 5 3/8. So I'm going to glue that in as well. I forgot to record it, but I've just used this little stamp from Conversation Bubbles to stamp just a note in crumb cake. And for the inside of the card, I'm just going to use this little stamp here. In the corner. So bring in the Calypso Coral. I'm not going to bother with shading here on this tiny bit, and just use one of the soft sea foam, the darker one, to colour in the leaves. Here's another simple card using the same frame, but I just wanted to show you that you don't really need to colour it in. You can just highlight bits or leave it as an etching. And this one I did the hello and put my own exclamation mark just by masking the speech bubble. So I hope you've enjoyed today's very simple project using some old stash from the annual catalogue. We always have new, but it's always nice to remember the old. Thanks for joining me, and I'll be back with more inspiration next time. Bye!